Let me tell you a story about an encounter I had with the infamous entitled Karen. My name is Alex, a 30-year-old guy who works as an Uber driver to make ends meet. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills. Now, I've had my fair share of entitled passengers, but this particular incident takes the cake. It all started on a sunny afternoon. I was waiting for my next ride when I received a notification on my Uber app. The name read Karen with a pickup location at a fancy restaurant downtown. Oh boy, I should have known better. I arrived at the restaurant and saw a woman in her mid-40s with perfectly styled hair and an air of entitlement. Yep, that had to be Karen. I greeted her politely, and she hopped into the back seat without even acknowledging my existence. "Hello, Karen. Where can I take you today?" I asked, trying to maintain my professional demeanor. "Take me back home, driver. And make it snappy," she demanded, her tone dripping with arrogance. "Of course, ma'am. Could you please provide me with the address?" I replied, expecting her to reach for her phone or give me some directions. Little did I know what was about to unfold. Karen's face turned pale as she realized something dreadful. "Oh, no. I forgot my wallet at the restaurant. Can you turn around and take me back? And don't worry, I won't be paying for the ride. It's your fault. I forgot it anyway." I was taken aback by her audacity. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to hear that, but I can't provide you a free ride. Uber policy clearly states that passengers are responsible for any fees incurred." "Well, I'm not paying, and that's final. Just turn around and drive me back immediately," she snapped, her entitlement growing by the second. Now, let me tell you, I've dealt with my fair share of entitled individuals, but Karen was in a league of her own. I decided to take a different approach, one that involved a touch of sarcasm. "All right, Karen, since you insist on not paying, let's make a deal. I'll drive you back, but you'll have to leave your designer handbag with me as collateral until you can pay. I mean, it's only fair, right?" Karen's eyes widened with disbelief. "Absolutely not. How dare you even suggest such a thing? I demand you take me back right now." As the conversation escalated, Karen's temper got the best of her. She started hurling insults and even attempted to physically attack me from the back seat. But I had learned a thing or two from dealing with entitled people. I calmly pulled over the car, ensuring the safety of both of us. "Ma'am, I will not tolerate any violence or aggression. You either calm down or find another way to get back to the restaurant." Realizing that she wouldn't get her way, Karen begrudgingly settled back into her seat. She muttered under her breath, but she knew she had lost this battle. I resumed driving, taking her back to the restaurant. As we arrived, she quickly exited the vehicle without saying a word, leaving me stunned at her audacity. But I wasn't going to let this entitled Karen get away with her behavior without consequences. I took out my phone and opened the Uber app. I typed a detailed report about the incident highlighting Karen's unruly behavior and attempted assault. I knew Uber took such matters seriously, and I wanted to ensure she faced the consequences for her actions. A few weeks later, I received an email from Uber informing me that Karen's account had been permanently deactivated due to multiple reports of similar behavior. Justice was served, and I couldn't help but relish in a moment of sweet revenge. So this happened when I was 14-15. My mother was married to a man who had an adult son from a previous marriage. I think he was mid-20s. He lived the hippie life, literally on the streets by choice, and about once a year or so, he would hitchhike his way to our house with his friends, do copious amounts of laundry and weed, and generally just take over as if it was their house. They even left the gas burners on once because they forgot they turned the stove on. Anyhow, like any teenage girl, I was obsessed with my clothes. I had laundry sitting in the dryer, including these awesome corduroy pants I had only worn once. Step, bro, and friends are doing laundry, and instead of doing something normal like moving my stuff aside or putting it in my room, they decide, "Oh man, it would be so dope to cut these up and make like a sweet cape." So that's what they did. I saw my step, bro, wearing this cape and recognized the material. "Are those my pants?" I exclaimed. "They were in the laundry, man. Yeah, no, like finders keepers." I was furious, and his dad wouldn't do anything about it. My mom was mad because she had just bought these for me and they were pricey. Mom didn't like this annual visit anyhow, but to keep her marriage, she put up with it. I wanted to get back at Bro, but he had nothing of value because of his lifestyle. Then I remembered I overheard my parents fighting, and my mom had mentioned how my stepbro had a kid that was like 2 years old and he hadn't so much as given the girl a penny or even seen the child since it was born. So the next day, my parents were at work and my stepbro was hanging out, listening to music or something, so I decided to call the cops. I wasn't sure what to say, but I told the dispatcher I knew of someone who might have a warrant out for failure to pay child support. Now, before you say, how would a teenager know about that? Well, my birth father is a demon and was at one point nearly arrested for that same offense. The dispatcher asked the name of the person. I gleefully gave my stepbro's name, and they confirmed there was in fact a warrant out for him. I gave my address and waited. 20 minutes later, cops roll up. They knock, and I let them in and lead them right to him. He's right here, officers. I couldn't stop smiling. They cuff him and take him off. An hour later, my mom called the house after my stepbro had used his phone to call his dad, and I told her exactly what I did, she whispered. Good job, but then pretended to loudly reprimand me as she was with my stepdad. Stepdad couldn't get the fine and bail money together fast enough, so my stepbro had to sit in jail a few nights. Still makes me happy 20 years later to remember seeing him being taken away in a cop car. My mom luckily divorced that man and is now married to a very nice man. So yes, as you all see, I'm a chick nursing student. I'm also 30, a military vet, Army, and have always done 90% of the work on my vehicles. The only things I can't do are balance tires. I don't have the tools, and some of the large work that requires things like cherry pickers and whatnot, again, I don't have the tools. So, like any good vehicle owner whose vehicle has sat for a long period of time without being driven, after getting back from a 6-month mobilization that left my little Toyota SR5 truck sitting in dry storage, I went through and did maintenance. Checked and replaced my fan belts, air filters, spark plugs, oil and fuel filters, did an oil change and radiator flush, checked the battery and connection, checked my brake pads and alignment, swapped out my winter tires for summer tires, cleaned out my truck, and replaced my winter survival gear with summer survival gear because, yes, that is a priority where I lived, etc. Last but not least, I added injector treatment to my fuel tank, filled my tank, and took my truck to have the tires balanced by a Les Schwab tire place. Now, because of other errands I had and because I had just spent 6 months in unpleasant sandy areas in uniform, I dressed up, heels, dress slacks, silk blouse, well-tailored jacket, hair up in a bun. Dressed like that, I dropped my truck off, agreed that I needed the tires balanced and that was it, and was told that it would be about an hour. Awesome. I was about to walk off to go to my other errands down the block when I noticed through that big glass window the Les Schwab places have that they were already pulling my truck into the bay, so I decided to wait. And being the interested person that I am, I watched as 2 guys started to pull my tires off my truck and a third, the man who had taken my keys and agreed that I was only asking for my tires to be balanced, sat in the driver's seat jotting down notes on a little notepad. After about 10 minutes, the third guy with the notepad came back inside and walked over to me and explained that during his free assessment of my vehicle, he found a lot of safety issues that needed to be corrected. Like what? I asked him. Well, it's like this, he responded, and then proceeded to rattle off a list of 10 or 12 items from his notepad that he had noticed in his free assessment. Fan belt needs replaced. Overdue for oil change and radiator flush, fuel and oil filters are shot and have to be replaced. Brake pads are shot and have to be replaced. Alignment is totally out of whack and ruined my tires, which now have to be replaced instead of just balanced. Everything on his list were things I had just checked and or replaced. He ended with this. I'm really sorry, miss, but your vehicle is one big safety problem. I can't release it to you to drive in the condition it's currently in. Keep in mind, not only had I just done all this work, most of it on his list, but he had never once opened the hood of my truck. You can't look at the majority of what I have listed here, or that he had on his list without opening the hood of the vehicle. After a moment of consideration, I asked him how much he thought it would be to make it roadworthy. He screwed up his face and did some math in his little notebook. A rough estimate, $3,700. But it could cost more because your vehicle is technically an import and the parts can be hard to find. I asked to speak with the manager and was told that the manager was out for the day. I then responded with, "So you're telling me that unless I get $3,700 worth of work done on my vehicle, you can't release my vehicle to me, the rightful owner, because it isn't safe or roadworthy?" Yes. He continued on with this babble of apologies and explanations in a sly, fakely apologetic, condescending tone, and asked if there was anyone I could consult with about a repair this large, or if there was anyone who could give me a ride home. I asked him to give me a couple of minutes and walked out into the parking lot and got on my phone out of earshot from him or his mechanics, who were still balancing my tires, and promptly got on the phone with the sheriff's department. When I explained everything to the officer, he promised to be out in 15 minutes to help me clear that matter. I walked back inside and told that mechanic with the sweetest smile I could conjure that I would have someone here presently to help me with the matter. I also asked him for the list of repairs needed along with his quote so I could discuss it with my friend who would be arriving shortly. He happily handed me the evidence to his arrest and even signed his name on it for me so that I could get in contact with him if I needed more than today to consider the repairs and costs. The cherry on top of the whole thing was the absent manager walked in just in time to see the employee get handcuffed, and I got a free tire balance service because of what the now former employee tried to pull. I was born with some physical deformities. They aren't visible unless you're a professional, but they've been causing me problems all my life. This includes a foot deformity where it often hurts to even stand for long periods of time, although physical therapy helps me manage it and be able to do more. I only started physical therapy again recently, as I didn't have the money to continue it for quite a while. I always get to my appointment early, as I have anxieties about being late, and today was no different. I sat down in a near-empty waiting room, but as it got closer to my appointment, the waiting room started to fill up and all of the chairs were taken. Note that all of the other people in the waiting room were the elderly at the time, while I'm in my 20s and am often mistaken for someone much younger than I am. Well, this woman came in with her husband. Her husband seemed to be the one here for physical therapy and took the last seat while the woman went to talk to the people at the front desk. It was only when she turned around that she realized all of the seats were taken and she might have to stand. So what did she do? She walked right in front of me and, without saying a word, stared me down. I was on my phone and made sure not to look at her, but I'm not someone who likes confrontation and was counting down the minutes until my appointment. Husband offered wife his own seat. She said, "No, it's fine," and kept staring me down. I think she knew better than to say anything with the receptionists right there, as she probably didn't want to risk causing trouble for her husband, which is the only reason she didn't say anything. In the end, some equally elderly guy offered his seat. She actually asked, "You don't have a problem with your legs or anything, do you?" The guy assured her it was a problem with his shoulder, so she sat down, and that was that. That's all there is to the encounter. I know there wasn't some crazy event or anything, but it always frustrates me for people to assume I deserve my seat the least because of my age, even in a goddamn physical therapy waiting room.